Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. Sorry, blinked there for a second. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about The Dinner Table Detective Season 1, Episode 2. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we're immediately picking up after where the last episode left off. Obviously, it's 4:50. The staff is like, yo, we got to get this place prepared, which Kyoshiro is like, who the hell needs this room so badly? And I love that Reiko comes in and is like, hey, we've solved it. He's like, you know who wants this room? She's like, no, we solved who the assailant is. And once again, it is the whole, like, she had to do her whole stunt again, and she ends up tripping, and it's like, oh, what's going on? And at that moment, Kageyama closes the blinds, it's dark in the room, and she flashes her flashlight, and it's on Hinako's necklace. Now that's, once again, I pretty much figured it had to be Hinako, but what I thought was interesting was the necklace thing I was completely wrong about. Basically, the jewel inside of the necklace changes depending on what type of light hits it. Sunlight and regular light it's green, but like fluorescent lights, like light bulbs and stuff, it will appear red. So, and then immediately Hanako runs out of the room, and Kageyama breaks it down about the whole situation, because they're like, no. They're like, there's no way Mizuho wouldn't know Hanako. They know each other. Because I didn't pay attention to, I should have paid more attention to that photo that was up for a little bit when they were like, oh, like they show that picture and everyone's kind of like, oh, it shows Mai, and that kind of had like a little bad taste to it because of after everything. But Hinako was in that picture, but also was Mizuho. But the Hinako, and I didn't notice this until they recapped it at the beginning of the episode, but it's something Kageyama points out, that when Mizuho was found, Kaori and Ayaka were like, oh my god, that's Mizuho, oh my god, is she dead, what's going on? And what was Hinako's response? That's Mizuho? Like, she, like, once again, my thought process was that she was attacking Mizuho because she thought that she was Kazuya's fiance, and I think that's, they never clearly say that, but that's what I think it was, because she didn't recognize Mizuho even though they knew each other. I thought this was a high school thing. It's like, no, university, so college, but it's like it was a long time ago, plus Mizuho isn't wearing glasses anymore and her hair is shorter, so, and they haven't seen each other in so long, because Ayaka and Reiko come from two prominent families, just like Kazuya and Mizuho. So like those Mizuho, so those families interact with each other, but like probably like, because even Kaori herself was like, yeah, I almost didn't recognize her, and that's what's the whole same thing for Hinako, because they didn't Hinako because they hadn't seen her in years, so they didn't recognize her immediately. So it's a little bit of a mistaken identity thing, I think. Once again, they never clarified on that specific position, but what it comes down to is that, because they're going back to the whole thing of, Hinako obviously was super into Kazuya, but it turns out that's not the case. And because Kageyama points out the reason why he figured out the whole Alexandrite, which is the jewel in her necklace, is because looking at that photo of them from university, Mai had one as well. And it's like, and they're thinking like, well, because Hinako had a thing for Kazuya, but they're like, well, what if that wasn't about Kazuya? What the one she had a special bond with was Mai? I thought they were implying like, oh, like Mai was, Hinako was in love with Mai, but it's like, no, it's just like, you're a really dear, important friend to me, because Mai's the one that encouraged her, her first supporter, like, hey, oh my god, your designs are so great. I want to be the first person that buys this design, this jewelry, when you make it. And for Hinako, who constantly her family disagreeing with what she does, everything she ever does, to have someone be the first person like, oh my god, this is amazing, I'm going to be your first supporter, meant a lot. So that's why she was always around Kazuya and Mai. It wasn't for Kazuya, it was for Mai's sake, because like, yo, you're my best friend and you're very important to me. But yeah, once again, I think the thing was she attacked Mizuho because she didn't recognize Mizuho, and she just assumed that that was the fiance, because like all that Mai went through because of Kazuya, it hurt her, where it's just like, this person I cared about, I like, is going through something, and she just, which wouldn't, obviously she was driven by anger, but it was just a situation of she was just frustrated. And as Kageyama talks about it later on, people, when they're not able to express that, when they're not able to express their emotions with words, he even says like there's kind of, oh god, like it's like the shifting hue of an of like, like the Alexandrite. It's like, I thought it was a beautiful like anecdote less parallel he was making. But yeah, Kishiro catches up with Hinako, and once again, she had no idea that was Mizuho, and she's apologetic, and she's like, because she knows like it's not just Mizuho, but she also knows like, right, like Mai will never forgive me for doing something like that, like regardless of the reasoning why it, like the fact is I did it. But once again, she was bottling all that up until she kind of popped off on Mizuho, but it turns out Mizuho is going to be okay. Her wounds weren't as bad, and even Kishiro is like, whether there's charges or not will come about because the victim in this case is still alive, and she can determine whether or not to have any charges. And it being Mizuho, she's not going to do anything, but they still have to take her down and question everything. So that's what, because I figured we were pretty much going to resolve this pretty quickly. But I wasn't expecting, for one, the episode to be divided up the way it is. I thought was interesting because like we had the conclusion of this case, and then we had the back half of the episode is the start of the next case, which I'm like not used to that, because it's like, once again, I'm looking at it like a Detective Conan situation where it's like, no, the entire episode, especially like, a lot of cases, I feel like most cases in Detective Conan are like multiple episode arcs, whether it's like 2 to 4 or something like that, or 2 to 3 or whatever. So yeah, the case gets resolved by the second episode. Typically, if it's, like I said, if it's not even a little bit longer. So to be able to start the next case, and then I don't know, maybe that has come up in Detective Conan. I haven't seen Detective Conan in a while. Last episodes I was up to was like 700, and that was like years and years ago, and that was pretty caught up at the time. But either way, I don't know if that's something that's happened in more recent Detective Conans or not. I would assume not, but it's such an interesting decision. But because this is based off a novel, and so pacing it out for an animated series, because I know that this did get a live action adaptation like over like a decade ago. Back in like 2011, I believe. So those were probably hour-long episodes, I'd assume, but maybe not. But I'd assume hour-long episodes, so they probably fit the entire case in one episode rather than splitting it. I mean, I guess it just depends on the case and stuff like that going forward. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. I guess like more often than not, you'd expect them to kind of fill in the rest of the episode with just like, Kageyama and Reiko getting a little bit more acquainted. Obviously, she's about to leave the party. Oh, we got some clarity really quickly, too, about why Ayaka has such beef with Mizuho, because it turns out Mizuho is going to be her new stepmom. And you're like, interesting. No wonder you hate her. She's like, yeah, maybe I should hire a hitman. And Kaori's like, don't joke about that. It's like, she's just so flippantly saying that stuff. I forgot to talk about it last episode, but Kazuya kind of has no timing whatsoever proposing to Chiaki when she's being questioned as a suspect, and also you're in the middle of like an assault investigation, but especially considering that victim is your cousin too. It's weird timing, but I forgot to talk about that last episode, so I included it here. But yeah, Reiko is trying to hide from Kishiro because she's like, man, he wants to take me home, but I can't let him see my house. And so luckily Kageyama shows up. She's like, I didn't tell you I accept you as my butler. And he's like, oh, so do you want to find it? She's like, fine, just, work with me and take me home. But yeah, she's just like, how are you such a good detective? And she's like, did you want to be a detective? He's like, well, because she's like, how are you able to do all that and figure that all out? He's like, well, I did want to be either a baseball player or a detective, which is interesting considering like the next case kind of revolves around baseball to some extent. Not really, but I don't know, just the timing of that is interesting. But she's like, you didn't really give me an answer on that. And Kageyama, she's like, oh, Reiko's like, Kageyama, like, can you fix me something to eat when I get home? He's like, sure, because she's like, I didn't eat anything at the party. And he kind of makes this, and I think this is going to be an important point, is going forward, you should make sure you eat before you solve the case, because he's basically bringing up the point that sometimes basically the aftermath of the case will sometimes leave a bad taste in your mouth because it won't always be like a clean, everything's fine. Like, I mean, whether it's just the aftermath of you just feeling sad, just like she kind of felt bad for Hinako and everything, and just the aftermath of the case won't always be sunshine and rainbows, obviously depending on the case and the end result and who the suspect is and stuff like that. That is like, yeah, you probably will lose your appetite. So I guess that kind of plays into a little bit more the dinner table detective, considering like, well, he's a butler, but also probably the whole point is before you solve a case, like make sure you eat, you know? So, but yeah, we immediately afterwards jump right into the next case. Like I said, I expected maybe to get a little bit more acquainted. I don't know if that's like still the same night of, or maybe it's a couple of days later. Who knows if we'll ever get any true aftermath to that case? Because Case Closed kind of works the same way too, where it's just like, I mean, a lot of crime dramas in general, like sometimes you'll get some form of like epilogue of sorts, but I mean, who knows if that's something that's going to be covered later, or it's just kind of being like, where it ends is where it ends, and you have to fill in the gaps yourself about where you think things might go, if they'll ever circle back to some of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, like I said, because Case Closed gives you some closure on the case, but that's about it. Like, you rarely get like the aftermath or whatever, unless it like involves like main characters and stuff, you know, their storyline. So. But either way, this next case involves, was it Kinue? She's the CEO of a... Was it a realtor? Yeah, it's a realtor company. She's the CEO of, and she was bashed in the head. And there's her fingers got the blood on it. And, you know, Kishiro is asking Riko, he's like, do you know what this is? She's like, well, obvious. It's dying. And he's like, dying message. And he screams it out. And he's like, oh, you didn't figure that out? She's like, I did. It's super obvious. But you don't give me a chance to say anything, you jerk. And he's just like, and she's looking at him because I think he's the one that later on came up with a theory. I can't remember. Oh, it was like when they found the murder weapon, which ended up being like a trophy. And it's like, but there's a smashed in window. And we hear from like the eldest son. He's like, me and how would him and the dude he's drinking with be related? Because that's Kinue's nephew. So cousin, I think, would be the case. Yeah, cousin would be right. I don't know why that took me so long to think about that. But anyway, he was drinking with his cousin, and they heard that, and they went in. Then they went to look for the cousin's daughter, Satomi, but then they found Kinue dead. So Kishiro's perspective on it is most likely the killer was outside. They threw the trophy inside just to kind of like make it seem like the mess with the timetable of the murder, making it seem like it happened around 11 when in actuality it didn't. Because what other reason would you have for the to throw it through the window? Like, because that's not how, like, it wouldn't have helped you escape or whatever. So it had to be just so they can screw up the time frame of the murder. And obviously there were five people that were in the house, technically 6 people on the property, because there was also the driver, but he was like working on a car at the time, I believe. But we have the eldest son, the nephew, the nephew's daughter, who was asleep at the time, and then we have the youngest, who's the son, the second son, and then like the middle child is the daughter. So everyone's there, got their own motives. Obviously, the eldest, she wants to kind of be able to go to a host club whenever she wants to, plus the money. The second, the youngest child, the youngest son, he was an athlete. Both him and his sister were athletes. So she did shot put. He did, baseball and something else. So it's like either one of them could have done it, but he's got a messed up shoulder, so he couldn't do it anymore. But yeah, they have money motives, and he's the one that is the most callous because he's on this phone. It's like, your mom just got murdered and you act like you don't care. Even the daughter's kind of callous about like, oh man, I want to go to a club, but then this had to happen. The eldest seems the most broken up about it, or just like shocked about it. But like no one seems too heartbroken about it, because they kind of make it seem like she was a bit of a dick, because even the driver was like, yeah, she didn't always treat me right, but I don't have motive because I'm not getting any money upon her death. In fact, I'm screwed because now I'm basically unemployed because of that. So He seems to only be the one that doesn't have motive. Plus, like, the daughter was asleep at the time. She still seems suspicious to me because, like, especially when Kishiro brought up the whole, like, weapon being tossed thing. It's like, oh, it had to be one of the adults do it. In that moment, she passes out. Then I'm like, what's up with that? Luckily, Reiko caught her, but I don't know if they were going to, like, I had this thing in my head about like what I thought that might be. Like maybe when Reiko grabs her, like she grabs her and like something was off, and Reiko doesn't think about it until the next episode. Maybe, maybe not. But I was just like, I don't know. There might be something to that because I was like, why fate in that moment? So it might be a thing of she knows who did it. She might have saw who did it, but she's covering for them, which kind of makes me feel like it's most likely her dad who did it. Because I forgot, like his motivation would be like the money and the inheritance from it all. The same thing for the eldest son, because he was also being overlooked for succession because he screwed some stuff up and he didn't handle things the way she wanted him to be handled, and she saw him as a failure and is like, oh, you don't deserve to be next in line to take over the company. So once again, everyone in this room has motive. Once again, the whole little girl fainting when she did seems the most suspicious. So like I said, my immediate thought is I think she saw who did it, and she did that just to draw attention away, just to kind of distract the investigation just for a little bit. Because one of the police officers did find a key in like the soil of like a plant in the room or something. So I guess maybe implying like, I don't know if that's like a safe type of thing, like there was like a secret compartment where like some stuff was hidden, or that's like, oh, I locked something from the outside or inside and I threw the key there, or I lost the key there. I don't know. Not quite sure where this is going to go, but I do think it's interesting where Kageyama is at the end fixing a meal and he's looking at Reiko's like, oh, you look tired, like you haven't gotten a proper sleep or even haven't gotten a proper meal. And he's kind of smiling like, oh, let me go use this opportunity to go sneak over to the investigation. I've also got to hide because obviously Reiko doesn't want her fellow officers to know the truth. Because obviously Kishiro didn't have time to question Kageyama about anything, because he probably just assumed like, oh, Kageyama was a butler there at the event, at the hotel. Obviously would never associate him with Reiko. So, but it's like, yeah, if you suspiciously showed up here too, it's like, oh, that's going to be interesting. I'm sure Kishiro is going to have some questions about that, but we'll see where things kind of go from here with this investigation and how things play out. I'm curious, like, is the second, like, part of this investigation going to be the entire third episode? Or are they going to split it like this one? Or will it be a thing of most of the episode will be the investigation and conclusion, and then, like, a little bit of, like, maybe Reiko and Kageyama stuff? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. It's, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see, like, the structure and pacing of the show in that regard. Like I said, I'm running my mouth. I'm excited to see where the next episode takes us with all this. Like I said, continuing this case, find out, how this all played out and worked out. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.